It's the same channel, probably. All right, well. All right.
This is so incredibly exciting.
All right. I'm feeling a familiar sensation to yesterday's live podcast.
This is so cool.
Yeah, a slight panic that'll probably
that is the sensation. Getting rid of my phone. We're stepping out into the unknown here.
So, Aza, you had a story for me.
I did.
You mentioned.
Well, okay. So to give a little context here, so we're getting more interested in social media stuff, and Ruchi likes being like almost painfully honest sometimes about like uncomfortable things, which is cool. And so he was like, hey, I'm using your, what did you say?
Status.
I'm using your status. Like I'm blatantly trying to like use your status to give this more credibility, give this more clout. And so he showed me this line that said like, from Aza Steele, co-founder of Go Guardian, and then in parentheses, 1 billion plus valuation or something, or something. And he was like, how do you feel about that? Like, is that all right with you? And I was kind of like, I don't know. Like, I guess, yeah, we'll experiment and see. And I wanted to tell you kind of this interesting story because so there was a time before this happened, or like right as Go Guardian was selling. And I kind of had this, what I thought was like this interesting opportunity to like, because it was like, we had all these accolades at the time. It was like the fastest growing startup in LA, for example. Or it was like all these different things. And I kind of was like, whoa, I could become like vaguely like B or C list celebrity. Like it was about to sell. And I was like, whoa, I could like, kind of become like a bit of a person in this thing. And honestly, largely where my head was at was like, I could probably like attract some really hot LA girls.
I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah. And I talked to my mom and a few other people. I talked to my mom, and my mom was like, Aza, don't do that. Like, that is a terrible idea. You do not want people to like know that about you. And it's actually, it could be really devastating for your love life and for your ability to know like why people are interested in you. And I had another friend named Lane, who we should definitely get on this podcast. He's an epic dude. And he had had a few different exits. And I asked him a similar thing, and he gave kind of similar advice. And yeah, and I think that was a really helpful. I always kind of wonder, I'm like, I wonder what would have happened if I had really like more ridden that wave, rather than just be like, nope, I'm just gonna like kind of disappear into the ethers, which is kind of the route I decided to go instead. And I think the one thing that I will say relative to it, just from like a practical, because I was shamelessly like motivated by the notion of attracting these women, these like LA status oriented, super hot women in my like mental sphere. And I think since that, I've actually, because I kind of sold the company and then had like 7 years of chilling out and reflecting and trying different things. And frankly, I kind of did like dabble with like gold diggeriness and like in a lot of pretty overt ways. Not really like that many, but there's a few different times I was like, you know what? I remember actually I talked to my friend AJ. And AJ, I was like, yeah, I'm just like curious about this. Like, what would it be like if I was like someone's sugar daddy? And, and AJ was like, dude, you should totally try. I mean, granted, he just probably wanted some stories out of it. And in my head, I was, just going to be like attracting these like wildly hot girls that had been out of my league until I like told everyone whatever that I could be their sugar daddy. And not to ruin it never really like worked. And maybe it's because I also just like wasn't quite rich enough to like really pull it off, or like statusy enough to be able to like really pull it off. But I feel like the girls that I attracted in the context of like, hey, I'm rich, look at me, it was always a really shallow connection. And it really doesn't scratch, because for me, intimacy is largely, it's about a shared connection. And if you're really only allowing them to interact with that part of you, that like identity part of you, then you're not really allowing them to like, I think about a massage, really like get deeply into your being in a way that like they can really see you and really love you and really accept you. And I feel like, I kind of went down that route a little bit. I actually in Norway, I was like kind of like trying out my my whole sugar daddy thing. And it just like didn't really feel that good and didn't really work that well. Like and I always ended up being with like honestly way more attractive women when I wasn't trying the sugar daddy thing. So that is my interesting anecdote about success and identity and sugar daddiness. We definitely should have used the sugar daddy word. That's like the most clickbaity thing we could have ever used.
For sure. So
in the microphone.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. Well, I mean, all my thoughts are curious about how you're so comfortable saying that. Those are all my thoughts, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how you can just say that. I feel like you might be at a level that I haven't reached to just be able to say that about yourself so openly.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I don't really take too much of myself too seriously. And to me, the human experience is largely about like experiencing different things and trying out different things. And for me, that was like it was really important, and I'm really glad. And it actually gives, because I can imagine a world where I didn't do that, and now I am in a relationship with Anna. And if I, in the back of my mind, was always thinking like, I wonder, but like, what if I were, just kind of tried my like sugar daddy, slutty playboy thing? That wouldn't really felt good. I'm really glad I actually turned that stone over. And I was scared of myself too, and scared of that part of myself, and scared of that curiosity. But I think, just really like turned towards it and was like, what would this be like? And
I think that's something I see from you a lot. Like whenever I ask you for advice and things, you always tell me to approach feelings and emotions and situations with curiosity, which stands out to me, because there's a lot of different ways you can navigate the world, but curiosity is one that's kind of, it almost reminds me of like you're in this really weird thing and then you're just like kind of exploring.
And that is kind of how I see life. Life is kind of weird to me. And it is,
when you like really go down to it and like what you think is true and what you think is not true, then I guess I might totally agree with you on that. Yeah.
I guess, how do you feel like that plays? Like, because I kind of imagine that a lot of entrepreneurs, so I think you definitely see yourself as an entrepreneur and someone that wants to go down the entrepreneurial path. Do you mind if I dive into your psychology?
Sure.
All right, have fun. I'm about to push you off the deep end. All right. So a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, a lot of male entrepreneurs, like a lot of what men are thinking about is how can I get with the most attractive girl I could ever get with,
Mhm.
or like find whatever it is. Maybe it's just the
Yeah.
love of your life, and it's just like how can I find this person
Yeah.
that is, you know,
I
really,
agree.
yeah. And so it's a huge part of the male experience and the male identity. It might be a big part of the female thing. I just don't really know. So, but for entrepreneurs, I feel like that is actually probably a large part of the underlying motivation.
Mm.
And so I guess how does my story and like kind of what I've learned through this path impact and yeah, what can you kind of divulge about your own motivation and the extent to which this is like applicable or not?
So I like to say this line a lot. My brother will probably recognize it. That the God of my experience is a biology. And that's kind of what I'm reminded of when you say that. Even though we have thoughts and desires and things, ultimately we live in a body and like we're flesh and blood. And we have like our brains are just like chemical soup. And
Yeah.
sometimes we just can't control things, you know? And yeah, our biology is one of those things. And I 100% agree that an undercurrent to all of my motivation, likely most males' motivation is a desire, is sexual desire for women. So truthfully, I haven't explored that enough. The desire for status I know is like biologically connected to having status so you can attract women and protect them. But I do know a large part of my motivation is a desire to prove to myself something. And maybe it's like a layer below. So instead of my motivation being for status and for women or something, my motivation is to prove to myself that I can be the person that has status and money and women. So it's not like a first layer motivation, it's like a second layer motivation.
Mm.
But the first layer is to prove to myself that I can do those things. So it's
Hmm.
like hidden behind this like wall of like me.
Hmm.
So it's like the first wall, the first thing is me. And then beyond that there's like other things.
Yeah, there's a part of me that's kind of envious, like of we were just watching something 3D print. Here we are at the CoDream Incubator Lab. And yeah, the 3D prints have these layers, and I feel like our identities have these layers. And when for me, when I accomplish these things, like of having this Go Guardian success, definitely like hugely layered on. It's a large part of my identity, and it's a large part of my reality. And part of me like knows that the happiest that I probably will ever be is like in the context of cruising around somewhere with a backpack and having no baggage, physically or just of identity and whatever. And part of me is like really envious of the lack of layers to your identity.
Mm.
And so, whether or not you do end up becoming a wildly successful entrepreneur, I do hope you enjoy like the simplicity of your current state and the freedom of your current state.
Mm.
Um, yeah, because as soon as your mind starts layering on these like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, I can do, blah, 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 it kind of it it's like putting on armor in a certain way. It's just harder to move around. It's harder to move freely. And I think that's honestly a large part of what I feel like I'm learning from the CoDream people like yourself that are coming and joining and working on things, is just this level of ease and freedom, kind of. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't know if I see it the same way.
Okay. How do you see it?
From my perspective, I'm looking to get to that place where I've got that identity, I guess. I think a lot of me really just craves respect and status and attention. And it's like really, I guess you can say it's very simple-minded. It's like one-dimensional kind of goals that, like, I'm always kind of aware that my motivations are shallow and superficial, but I still do them anyway. I still have them anyway.
Yeah.
It's like this weird thing where it's like, I know I'm smart enough to understand
Yeah.
that everybody and their mother who's successful always speaks into the camera and speaks in the microphone and says, it wasn't worth it. This isn't what you should be looking for. And for some reason, I think I told you once, I had this fantasy that I really badly wanted, maybe as a consequence of my biology or something, to have that status and identity. And so a long time ago, I like locked these doors in my mind that I don't allow myself to walk through anymore. And those are the doors that are like, what if I didn't chase success? What if I didn't chase money? What if I just did what older successful people actually advise you to do, which is find your passion? All these cliches of like your bliss and your joy. And I feel like I've locked those doors in my mind and like shut them, and they're like set to be opened until I get there.
Yeah.
So I can at least have so like I feel like
just so you know, I feel like I totally did that at
Yeah.
GoGuardian.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And for me, it was mostly around like just not wanting to unlock doors of trauma and unlock doors of like emotional baggage that I knew I needed to look at. And there's this guy named Todd who was a co-founder at GoGuardian, and he would be like, "Hey, you realize you have a lot of like emotional healing to do?" And I was like, I was pretty unsure whether doing that emotional healing would totally like disrupt the core of my motivation. And so I kind of felt like it would be irresponsible
Yeah.
for me to do that, especially in the context of like having, at that point in time, maybe there's like 30 employees or something. And, maybe I like go and cry a whole bunch and do this emotional healing. Then I'm like, guys, actually, I don't need to do this. Like, I don't need to do this company thing anymore. It's like, was coming from a place of, my dad rejecting different parts of me and me trying to prove something to somebody. And I don't need to be in this drama anymore. Sorry, we should all just go home. And I was pretty afraid of that. And so I like very much kept those doors locked. And honestly, kind of vaguely, maybe a good call.
Right.
Yeah, I think
That's
there is a right time for certain things.
That's my intuition.
Yeah.
That like all this can kind of come after.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like really stupid. And
No,
it doesn't
but
make sense.
actually living life,
Yeah.
like not, if you listen to enough of people, they're like at a certain, like it all at the end, maybe doesn't really matter at all. Like it's all this weird dream, but it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that it's not worth like fully living it too, and like going through and learning the lessons yourself. But yeah, it's interesting to just like, because if you know that it's not really going to make you happier, that it's not really going to fill you up, but you're like,
it's just so that's what I feel. It feels like I'm just like plugging my ears and walking. It's why do I do that? I'm like 100% aware because I've interacted with so many, I think, oddly enough, successful people that have had the time and the opportunity to advise me on that exact same thing over and over and over again. And even not like wildly successful people, but like mildly successful people. that have just seen that pattern.
Yeah.
There's a guy here at CoDream. His name is Brian, and he's had a profound impact on me because he's chased multiple goals at 100%.
Yeah.
And he's like climbed multiple mountains, and every time just just got there and was like, what now?
I'm going to text Brian and see if he wants to come join.
Sure, yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. And he is so astoundingly self-aware of himself and this pattern that it affected me as well. I was able to see through him his like deep confusion. Like it felt to me like he's in this like murky state of like, what do I do? He was a former professional baseball player, and then a really, really good sales agent, and then really, really good at real estate. But every time he knocked off those successes, every time he set a goal and hit that, he would feel the same emotion. And he communicated that to me in very raw, real language that made me feel what he felt.
All right, we will have a surprise guest. Brian.
I'm really glad, actually.
Yeah.
Brian is leaving tomorrow from CoDream.
That's true.
For context to the viewers. And I have had a lot of friends here, but he's one person I'm going to be very sad to see go because it feels like intellectually a piece of me is like detaching and leaving, which really sucks.
Yeah. We're going to have to stall and for like a couple 2 minutes probably.
Yeah.
Until he gets up here.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite things about Brian?
Brian is so self-aware. Ridiculously self-aware. Maybe like too much so.
Really?
Yeah.
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 How do you feel like why too much, or like how is that a detriment?
He can get lost in himself.
Yeah.
He can get so lost in himself, and if I just heard that as like words, I would probably think that's some stupid over exaggeration. But it's actually true when you can see it happen in conversation.
Do you feel like that? Do you see that often, or do you feel like that's a thing unique to Brian, or what?
I think it's a thing unique to Brian.
Yeah.
He's got this interesting capacity to be very, very self-aware. He's super introspective.
Yeah. Ah, shit! I just realized I'm wearing the same shirt that I wore at yesterday's podcast.
That's all right.
Don't judge me.
That's all right.
All right, ask a random question while we stall.
One time you mentioned Brian was intimidating.
Yeah.
Why did you say that?
I mean, I think partially because he's just like a tall, good-looking male dude, and in the like alpha-y thing, that's, kind of another common thing that's just going. Oh, that's you, I think. Going in the back of my head, it kind of, just felt a little bit scary. I just also wasn't sure how to interact with him. It kind of. Do we have any watching?
You might be watching. I don't know. Oh, he said, "Let me be on in the podcast."
It's in my room. Wait, Brian?
No, my brother.
Oh.
Okay.
We don't have the software that's
that software,
but we could get it probably by tomorrow's podcast. We could probably allow for remote joiners.
Yeah, maybe that'd be good. I'll set it up, Roshan, so tomorrow you can join. That'd be sick.
That'd be awesome
for sure.
So for context, there, sheer hair. Actually, I didn't really know. I had like an intuitive feeling. Actually, you want to know something crazy? So I had kind of accepted Ruchir's brother. So this is Ruchir here. Ruchir's brother to the CoDream thing. And Ruchir kind of got in on the like brother plus one.
Yeah.
And at first, I was kind of like, man, this could be a lot of energy. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, should I say no? Like, I kind of was like, maybe I should say no. But then I just had this like intuitive feeling that just let it be, man. It's going to be cool.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did. Because his brother never showed up. His brother, like, there's this whole Y Combinator swirl and then this other stuff. And his brother never came, but Ruchir came. And it turns out Ruchir is fucking incredible. And so it's been like such a trip. But this is also like the longest that Ruchir has been without his brother.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
for context, we're twins.
Yeah.
And we go to the same college. We live in the same dorm. Before living with the same major. Before that, we were living in the same house. We went to school together. We're in all the same classes. We just did everything together, literally. So this is kind of huge split.
Yeah.
And truthfully, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
I missed my brother for a long time. And the way I coped with that was by basically writing to him.
Yeah.
And I found that I developed a communication channel with my brother that was so much more honest than sometimes when I'm speaking.
Yeah.
And even now, like, I can get on a call with my brother or a FaceTime and feel like I'm speaking more dishonestly than I would be if I was writing.
Yeah. That's so cool. And yeah, I feel like you and your brother both have a lot of similarities and have a lot of like complementary skill sets. And I am so excited by the notion of you guys like starting something together.
Yeah, I am too. Definitely. I've talked to my brother about it. But I guess right now we're in this weird phase where like we're doing different things.
Different one. Maybe grab one from out there. Yeah. Brian has entered the podcast studio.
All right.
This is very exciting. Let me grab some headphones for him.
They're all done here.
So you come over here onto this side. Yeah.
All right.
No, this is great.
All right.
Oh my gosh. So this is pretty hilarious. So Brian is actually way taller than both of us, but somehow he's gotten the like short stool, which is great because I do feel very intimidated by Brian and Brian's height. So this is actually very this is what it feels like. This is why we're terrified of you. Yeah. How you doing?
Why are people terrified of me?
Why are people terrified of you?
Yeah.
Do you want to start?
I feel like I don't have a terrifying face, right?
I don't think it's your face.
I don't think it's the face.
It's just you're very extraordinarily masculine energy. You're a professional athlete. You were a professional athlete. It's just a byproduct of the life that you had to live.
Cool. That's interesting.
Emotions you felt like you were forced to reciprocate.
I could be totally wrong, but my story is that you have like kind of some like tenseness in a certain way in your energetic body that you're like not quite sure how to interact with. And I'm like scared that it's going to come out in the context of like you unexpectedly killing me.
Really?
Yeah.
I promise I won't do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm Brian. And I'm new to the podcast. I've actually never done a podcast before. It's a unique experience for me. Cool. Feels good to.
This is my second time. So.
Yeah. I feel like you did good the first time. I saw the first one.
Oh, did you actually?
Yeah.
Sick.
It looks sick. Yeah. So I found myself here on Kauaʻi kind of spontaneously. I found Aza through Workaway, and I was just looking for a change of pace. I spent a lot of time on the computer, on the phone, just involved in like the other side of nature and life, you know, and I feel like I needed to kind of ground myself. So it was so cool to end up here. You know, it was almost like a blessing. I feel like I had no idea where I was going, and next thing you know, I'm sitting here with you guys, like in the middle of a jungle, essentially, surrounded by like such fantastic people. So I'm super grateful just like be here with you guys, and it's been awesome. Aza is such an incredible host and such a figure to look up to. So I really appreciate it. I won't kill you, I promise.
At least I said it here. So if it does happen, like they'll definitely be like, you know, they'll be able to reference this in the court documents. But like, yeah. I feel like it's been so fun to watch you, because so for context, Brian and I have so Brian comes from like this athlete background, as Ruchi was saying, like very masculine. And we've had these conversations about how he sees me kind of integrating more masculine and feminine, and like being, you know, finding flow and stuff. And I just feel like I saw you today, you were in the garage, and just kind of, it really felt like I saw you just like find this easeful flow. And I was just like so stoked for you. It just felt, yeah, I was just like, oh, this kind of like, this looks good on you. Or is it just, it felt like it, yeah, it felt really cool to see that. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. I think I've struggled with the masculine and feminine energy, and even like kind of understanding what it is. Because I think initially hearing like, oh, feminine energy, you feel, I guess first thing that comes to mind is like soft,
Yeah,
you know, and to me, like not in a good way, you know, like that's how I always thought of it. And I was kind of brought up in the athletic world, like just being as hard as you can, like pushing all your emotions down and just kind of grinding to whatever it is, like the objective is. And I definitely feel like I have here more than anywhere else, like found that like sense of flow and letting go a little bit of the desire to control things and to have things happen exactly the way that like I plan them to be. So kind of like letting things come to me and kind of taking things like from day to day, almost like not having super high expectations for how things are going to happen, letting people kind of do what they're going to do and just roll with it. So that's been like a super cool like lesson I feel like you've taught me, and just like the way that you carry yourself and the way that you handle situations, it is like contagious, you know? So that's what I think is so cool about this place is like, we're not in class every day, like learning these crazy lessons, but you just kind of follow by example. And I feel like you do a really good job of like setting a good example. So yeah.
I'm just kind of curious how this fits in. So for everyone's context, Brian's leaving tomorrow. And I'm curious how it like fits into the context of your life and kind of what you're hoping to bring with you, or what how you want this, like what was this chapter to you, and what do you feel like the next chapter is?
Ooh. So this chapter in my 6 weeks here, I'd say was kind of like self-development, like finding myself, I would say, in the sense of just learning a lot through other people. And just like we talk about a lot, like the mirror that like other people are in our eyes, and like sometimes the frustrations that come with the downfalls we see in others is just kind of like a reflection of ourselves. And I think that that'll definitely help me go back into like my day-to-day life and have more patience and more like gratitude for life in general and for hard times and struggles and success. When I feel like I was just kind of always chasing success and always chasing the next goal and just like trying to make it to where I thought that I should be, and now I feel more peace, I feel like, in the sense of being present in where I am and being happy with what I've accomplished to this day and not always chasing the next thing. So I think this chapter has really taught me a lot that I couldn't have learned in another setting. So I think that's been like the coolest part of it.
I have a question for you, because I think we're kind of similar in a lot of ways. And a lot of what you just said is flowery or cliche. And I know that I feel the same way about a lot of the things you said. And I have like an anger towards it for being so expected, for it all to be what everyone else already said, for it all to be so like dumb.
What do you mean by that?
For it not to be so complex. It's so simple.
Yeah.
And it's so like cliche and flowery and all that. And I have like an anger towards it.
That it's that simple.
I know. It's always that simple.
Yeah.
And every time in my life, it's always been that simple. And I've hated that. I have like an anger towards it. I resent it.
I think we both kind of have a way of overcomplicating things and, making things these like multi-stepped, complex things in general, like something so simple can be taken in so many different ways. And once you get away from like what actually you should be doing, you kind of complicate it to make it harder than it actually is. And I think there's probably a better way of making sense of that. But I think I have a similar struggle with just overcomplicating everything, and taking something that could be so simple and making it the opposite. So
something to add there that I think is interesting. So this whole like I think or like I get mad, it's kind of, I feel like, useful to separate yourself from your thoughts a little bit and be like, whoa, okay. Because let's say you do have a mind, right? And you are separate from your mind. And let's say your mind gets angry every time there's like this like peaceful simplification of life. Like that's a kind of really interesting thing in a certain way. Because, if you read these different books, where like Eckhart, The Power of Now, and he's like, okay, the mind or the ego, the identity is going to try to like keep itself center and keep itself alive and protect itself. And one of the things that can destroy it the most is just this like simple peace that's like kind of ever present in life in a certain way. And so noticing the mind be like, wow, I hate this. Fuck, this is is really useful. But it's also pretty useful to be like, okay, wait, maybe this isn't just me. Maybe this isn't like my thought. Like I noticed this thought arise for sure. This thought came into my awareness, but like, who's the one saying these thoughts? Who's where's the, what,
Where do they come from?
Where do they come from? And yeah, I just feel like having a little bit of separation there can be really helpful.
Do you think maybe your thoughts come from like some function of your biology, and your like mind is some distinct but like kind of connected thing to your biology, and maybe like emotions or like the environment for your thoughts or like the feelings you have, like the general like energy you have day to day, whether you're angry or frustrated or sad, is like dictated by like some part of it is like this component you can't control. I think the word biology is like a stand-in for like the chaos of the world around me. And that's just and also the chaos of me internally, physically, like blood vessels and bones and wires and like chemicals in the head and just crazy things that just I have no idea about. And I just don't know what they're doing to me. And so that just put it there when I talk about it. But maybe that's like where the seat from where thoughts come from, and that's why you can kind of distinguish yourself from them. I've never actually successfully detached myself from my thoughts in the way that you're describing. I want to try. I think it's kind of the general vibe of all like the spiritual masters and the yogis and gurus of the world.
I feel like it's a really simple thing though. You can just like watch your thought. It's a little bit intimate and a little bit gnarly, but you can just watch this moment. And one of the easiest ways is, you can watch them silently, but you can also watch them and then just like speak them as you hear them, as you're like, well, okay, my brain just said, I hate this. Huh. My brain just said. Are you having thoughts?
I'm having like non-verbal thoughts. My eyebrows are raising. I'm like, my mouth is like twitching, and I'm like aware of those things.
I'm sweating profusely.
I was also aware of this.
Yeah, I feel like he's looking at me as these sweats are like beating down my face. Like, turn the fan on. No. I feel like a lot of what Ruchi is saying are things that we've been kind of studying, just like in our little communal household, just psychology and the conscious and subconscious mind and the thoughts that we can't control. And an interesting perspective that I found, I forget what video we were watching, but to create like an alter ego in a sense of the negative thoughts, you know, to kind of separate yourself from those negative thoughts and it not necessarily like being you who's bringing those upon yourself, you know. And I've kind of tested that out the last couple of days, and I asked ChatGPT to help me come up with a name for my alter ego, and it came up with Overthinking Owen. So I've been talking to Owen whenever like a negative thought comes. I'm like, nah, it's just Owen, you know. Whoa. So it's been interesting because the second I say that to myself and just being conscious of like when those thoughts come and you say like, oh no, that's not me, it kind of leads you in another direction. Like you can't really continue on that same thought pattern when you interrupt it. So that was like an interesting the last couple of days, like when say, oh, I can't do this, or like I start overthinking something, you know, making something more complicated than it should be. It's like, oh no, that's just Owen. Just make it simple, you know? So yeah, we'll see how long we can keep that up. People think I'm crazy, but
do you think that could evolve into something crazy? What is your concept of crazy? You mentioned that.
Like talking to myself in front of people, maybe. Stop it, Owen. Yeah, no. You see that in the movies, you know, it's freaking weird. No. I guess we're all a little weird.
So before you came on to the podcast, before you entered this room, we had like the smallest like 1 or 2 minute discussion about you as like almost like an intro to the viewers in a way. And one thing that I mentioned about you was how impressed I am with your capacity to be self-aware. And I also followed that up by saying you can be too self-aware. Like you, Brian, uniquely can be way too self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
And like get lost in yourself almost.
Agreed.
And like watching that is odd.
What do you feel like the antidote to that is? If you could like speak to him, his like very, you know, young, simple child self, like what's the antidote to getting lost in that? I'm curious.
I don't know. Because I'm also like, I also like it. I also don't want you to, I might be biased. I'm maybe biased because I enjoy that version of you a lot. I enjoy it so much that I don't even want to think about what context would make it disappear. I think it's valuable. It's valuable to me because when you're in that state, you're so much fun to talk to. Truthfully.
Yeah, it is kind of a state that you have
Yeah,
to
it is a
get
state.
into to like really.
Yeah, and you can
dig into
I
yourself.
watch you like step into it as
Mhm.
well, and that's the thing, I think it's so hard. Like when you first came here, I couldn't read you at all. You're just silent and like not stoic in a way, but we've lived together now and had so many opportunities to talk honestly in a very raw way and see each other's core. And I remember saying to you, like, I don't know why I'm like weirdly attracted to your mind. I'm so attracted to your mind. Your mind thinks in a way that's so unique to me. Like your concept of like these games.
Yeah, playing games.
Yeah. The patterns you've like watched yourself get into.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I'm so curious. What games are we talking about? Let me in, guys.
Okay, do you want to explain? Okay,
Yeah, so I kind of introduced, I guess, Ruchi to this thought or theory that everything
basically it
is
started
a game.
off subtle though. It's not like he like just said one day this. It was like over time, I would basically hear these like weird cues that like felt like metaphors.
Right.
So like he'd be like,
"Oh, that's a hard game."
Yeah, like, oh, that's a hard game.
Like cleaning, for instance.
That's a tough
like,
game.
Oh,
That's a hard game. Oh yes, oh yeah. Talking to him, yeah, it's a hard game. Or like yeah, that's the software's a hard game. And it's like that is like understandable, but like also like slightly off the edge that you're like, what does that mean?
Right.
And then yeah, over time it just became this thing, and I learned more about your background of like playing baseball, and then also your actions. Like it was all nonverbal. Like your actions of like the way you interacted with activities. You were literally turning things into games, literally, and that was like fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Like my mind was like so addressed, so intellectually stimulated by Brian, by Brian's mind, and the way that he realized himself in certain moments, and
Yeah.
that's one thing I'm taking with me, because
I want to know how you see it.
Like games in general.
Or just like how this is a part of your psychology, or how you see.
So I think to do hard things in life, like a lot of the things that I don't enjoy doing, or things that take a lot of like mental energy to do, the only way to get myself to like do it at a high level is to have like an objective and to think of it as though I'm like competing with myself to do it really well or do it better than I thought. Like it's almost kind of like trying to beat the GPS to the destination, like the time. Oh, I'm going to try and get there before it tells me I'm going to. Kind of playing that game in a sense when it comes to washing dishes or any monotonous task you can think of. Like
literally, we made the cleaning game. After all that, we made the cleaning game.
Yeah.
And like, so for the viewers, it was like this thing of like, we didn't know how to divvy up household chores, and we made it into a game.
Yeah.
In a way.
Just kind of like challenging
approached
yourself.
it that way.
And when you're around other people playing games, like as a kid, like you played games because they were fun.
Yeah.
And I think when you can make things fun, it's a lot more enjoyable,
Yeah.
And you can make pretty much anything that's not enjoyable by like playing games with yourself in a sense, like just competing with yourself to get better, or to do it faster than you thought, or yeah. So we kind of talk in this metaphor of like things being games.
Yeah.
That's so freaking cool.
Isn't that sick?
What?
Isn't that insane?
That's incredible.
It's insane how it affects you too. I've literally felt hard things become easy. and fun
Yeah.
and enjoyable.
Yeah.
But the non-verbal part is so important. The part of like actually like treating it like a game. Not like a traditional video game with like levels and things, but like just like tag or something. Like what's so fun about tag? Just running around touching people. Like what is so fun about it? You know? And now this concept of like designing your own game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it was just ironic that we have been watching these videos and came across this Graham Weaver video of designing your own game, you know, and he almost like talked
in the same metaphor.
As though like you're in
And
this like simulation.
He was a competitive rower as well. So there's some athlete similarity there.
Yeah. Because like I can't tell you how many times people have been like, Brian, it's like this isn't a game. And I'll be sitting there like, but it kind of is, you know, like
it is.
Life is kind of a game in a sense. Like you're just playing and in a sense like leveling up and trying to figure out how to get to the next thing. And yeah, it's kind of interesting.
That's why I mentioned to Aza that when you leave tomorrow, I'm gonna feel like a part of my mind is like breaking off and going as well.
That's you can always call me.
Yeah, I will for sure. Because like intellectually, my mind is attached here somehow.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
you say it like that because yeah, like in the house, I feel like we've had some like really cool talks, you know, that I haven't like had with a lot of people.
Beyond anyone.
And that's the kind of like communication that like stimulates me in a way. Like it gets me excited, you know, to like go down these rabbit holes of thought.
And I almost wish you can communicate that part of yourself to more people. Because I feel like it's just saying that if I said this, maybe if some people at CoDream were to watch this video, they'd be a little bit surprised or like be a little bit caught off guard. And that's the case because of why?
I think it's a fear, you know, it's a fear of misunderstanding, I'd say, of people like not getting it and maybe looking at me like, whoa, like what is that? Because I don't know that everybody can comprehend things on the same level and like understand. And I think I'm working on like getting over that fear of being misunderstood, you know, and just like saying whatever it is that I have to say without fear of judgment or seeming weird or whatever. But yeah, I think I've kind of learned that not everybody gets like excited about the same things, you know? So like I get so excited to be like talking about something and somebody's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, no, it's not a game. But yeah, no, I think that's why. But it's interesting you say that because like that's like one thing I would like to integrate better is to not feel or to figure out how to not feel like I'm doing somebody a disservice or whatever by, I guess, just being myself.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, it's kind of an interesting dynamic that I play like in my head.
Can you let us in a little more? Like tell us more about that dynamic. I'm super curious.
I would say the battle I have in my head is with listening and speaking. You know, I feel like I observe a lot and like to analyze what's going on around me so that I can kind of maneuver in life strategically. And sometimes I get so caught up in that analysis that I forget that like I have a lot to say and a lot to like contribute vocally and like just like my mind and things. I also feel too I struggle with coming across as like a know-it-all in some cases, you know, because I feel like I do analyze a lot of situations and could have it all figured out in my head and know exactly how something should be. And then on the other side, like allowing people to like figure things out themselves and not always feeling like I have to control a situation, you know? So I think maybe there's been times where I've done that and somebody has like been offended by it, you know, or like, oh no, I don't need your help, or just like my desire to help people, you know, when they don't need it, or somebody who kind of like has to do things themselves and not be like always guided in a way. You know, I feel like I can kind of be that way sometimes. So I guess fear of that, you know, is like the battle in my head is like, do I just sit here and listen and observe and kind of like take it all in, or do I speak out and try and control, in a sense, what is going on or how things are done? But I guess in the context that you talk about, it's just like expressing these crazy metaphors and like thought processes. I don't know. It's like a part of me likes being like a little mysterious, you know, and not like being super open to everybody, you know, because it's kind of a vulnerable place to be when you're like that open. And I don't know that I've gotten there yet, you know. Like I think that the people who really get it and like can like crack through, like see, and those are like the most like those are like my best friends, you know, are the people who like see it, you know. So I don't know, it's like kind of like a process, I guess.
On the flip side, like shielding yourself with like mysteriousness or this like dark energy, you can also, I feel like my strategy is like being so open, and that openness is like a front, and that's a shield for like the little kid kind of. So
Interesting. What are your thoughts, Aza, on those two separate, like two different ends of the spectrum in terms of how people are?
Give me a little more to go off of.
Like the being open and closed, in a sense. You think it's like a personality trait, or do you think it's like a choice?
I feel like I have really watched myself. I can only speak from personal experience. And I've watched myself go really far in two directions there. And especially when I first came to Kauaʻi. And I was just like, whoa, life's all about the heart. It's all about just being as open as possible in each moment. And I like kind of smile from like in this to this like naive, fondness for this like younger self. And I kind of watched that self get like pretty taken advantage of in different ways. And it was kind of like unrestricted feminine energy. It's just only yes, kind of just like yes, yes, yes. Like what, you know, yes, yes, yes. Just like receptivity, just only receptivity. And yeah, truth. And then I kind of like went pretty far in the other direction since then. I'm just being like, oh, fuck that. Like, I'm just going to like close off and just be like, yeah, do a lot of no's, a lot of staying to myself, a lot of just kind of being in my own energy, being kind of mysterious or whatever. And I feel like I'm coming back into like, I'm falling back in love with the world, kind of falling in, hopefully finding a balance between that openness and that closeness. I definitely feel like vulnerability. Yeah, I'm interested in that like vulnerability as a front notion. Because
I think I meant like being loud. Just being loud and on the verge of obnoxious. As a front. Because that allows you to control situations really easily. And most people don't speak up. So the people that do.
Why are we all trying to control situations?
There's a joy in it for sure. Maybe like a perverse joy in proving that you can manipulate things. I talk about this intellectual ego a lot. It could be a product of that. in a way, but there's more to it. There's like a frustration with the world being a certain way.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, I feel like it's like a safety mechanism, almost like a way of keeping yourself safe is to control the outcome of something, right? To like have like a predetermined outcome that you so desperately like want to happen that you do all these things to make sure that it happens, and a lot of the times it doesn't. But just like the feeling that you're doing everything you can to like control something, I've noticed is probably a big part of the reason why I feel like I need that in a sense. And that's why, I mean, honestly, like being here has helped me a lot in that like aspect of letting go, right? And just kind of letting things happen and going with the flow, if you will, you know, like all these like cliches that seem so simple, but then like it's representative of like a much more complex like internal control safety mechanism that people develop, I think, over time.
I think for me, I think I have a lot of control stuff, truthfully. And I think honestly, a lot of entrepreneurship and a lot of like creating these things, like creating reality for me is partially about not being like vulnerable in someone else's reality. And so I'm like, okay, I'll just try to like control my reality. But you also like hugely like limit yourself, and you're shutting out potential hurt, but you're also kind of shutting out God in a certain way, I feel. And yeah, I feel like there's probably some times growing up that I had like or that I just felt really small and like I had no control, and I was just like, man, if I could ever be in a situation to never feel this again, I will do whatever I can to do that. And I remember one time I got really high actually on weed and Los Osos, and I was lying in bed and reality is, you know, just fracturing in front of my eyes. And I just kind of, I was talking to my then girlfriend, Kenzie, and just realized how much like subtle control I had in a certain way that I had manifested just kind of through our relationship, just in the way she was saying things to me, like, hey, are you okay with blah, blah, blah? And it was like somewhere between shocking and disturbing. I was like, oh God, like what have I done in terms of like how much kind of power I've given myself? And like it was kind of terrifying. And because it also through that, you know, you kind of, if you make yourself an elephant, and I used to use this analogy a lot, and then you're not really that aware, you can end up causing a lot of harm to your environment as you're like stepping around and blah, not thinking about this person's, you know. And so yeah, I think for me, that's kind of where the control thing comes from. But it's honestly a part of myself that's hard to see. It feels really elusive. It feels like, yeah, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like the golden snitch in a certain way. As soon as I get close, it's like, I'm like, wait, what? Okay, what? Yeah.
I agree. I think my motivation as well to try and control things comes from a fear of not being in control, or like memories of who I was when I wasn't in control, and associated frustration with things that I want to happen that don't happen. That's a frustration when you want something to happen but just doesn't. And you're like, why? You know, you just bang your head against reality.
And there's just nothing you can do, no matter how hard you try.
My God, I remember this is really stupid, but I was in high school, and my school had this weird, stupid rule around phones, like no phones. and I got like a text, and like I like took my phone out of my pocket to check it and just put it back, and like this lady is like basically the administrator of the office administrator. She like saw, and she was like, "Hey, no, you come here." You know that like kind of bossy, annoying, grabby like office administrator like secretary.
Yes, I 100% know the persona.
That. I hate that. But like that like pinchy personality, like snappy, like come here, you. And my God, I mean, like the structure I was in, I like had to get my phone, and I was like, this doesn't. I was like trying to explain to her that I didn't use my phone, and she was like, no, I saw your phone. I was like, I didn't use my phone, and I got so there's nothing I can do. She like went and like she said I was causing a scene, and then she took me to like she like tried to grab my phone in my hand, and I put it in my pocket, and it's this small moment that like I'm just like that I think back to a lot actually, and because we went to the principal's office, and like she like told me basically I had a one-on-one with the principal after that. Just like she like explained all these things to me, and I was like like he was like, it doesn't matter, you had your phone out. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you know how many kids have their phone out? And, like, and I just explaining all this stuff, and then just the frustration of it all, just like this like structure I'm in that just I can't control, that I'm like having to like deal with this stupidity and this like nonsense. And I kid you not, I start bawling in the principal's office.
Yeah.
Facing him. And then he just like basically like knows that I'm like, I think he understands what I was feeling. And he just like went to his computer and did some work. And I just like sat there crying like a little kid who had to get his phone taken away in the seat. And I used his tissues and just like sat. And after that, there was like no words, just silently just crying. And I couldn't stop crying.
Yeah.
And then I put my phone on the desk, walked out of the room. And that was that.
Wow. I totally understand the like, yeah, that hatred of bureaucracy, which you were touching on, and that that feeling of just like, wow, this is so dumb. And what the fuck? And I feel like that's part of the empowering thing about like becoming a like semi-aware adult is you're like, whoa, so much of society is just made up.
Yeah.
By other people that are just like, okay, we're gonna do it this way.
Yeah.
And like it's all fucking arbitrary.
Yeah.
And yeah. And a lot of that is just like really, it is really frustrating.
Yeah.
Because these structures exist and you know they shouldn't still exist. You know there's better ways to do it. And it only exists because it's like that's the way it's been done. And I'm like, that is the stupidest reason that something should keep happening, is because it's already been done. Like, it actually makes me really. I get the passion there and the feeling.
Yeah. Isn't it kind of ironic, I guess, in a sense, like we talk about the issues that we have with like trying to control things, yet we like hate being controlled, you know, just by other people. And like when you like in the sense where you like can't bullshit a bullshitter, you know, like I was listening to that and I was like, I get that, like being controlled and feeling like you're like getting blamed for things that are stupid
because of this stupid structure, felt like entitled to grab my phone out of my hand. Just bonkers to me. I was just so mad, like that, you know, like the teenage angst, you know. It's just like, why, you know? It's like, why?
But I guess there's a part of you too that like thought you could get away with it, you know, like that's like we talk about that too, is like that side of you that thinks that you can get away with something so small, but the truth is you broke the rules. And like I'm kind of the same way. It's like, oh, it's like not that bad. Yeah, but like
not that big a deal.
Yeah, it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I feel like my relationship with rules is so bizarre. Like I hate so many rules, and I'm just like, this is the stupidest thing. I will resist this until I die. Like it's like moral resistance. And then there's other rules, like for example, in Hanalei, there's 5 to 7 cars that are supposed to pass the bridge. And if there's more, like if someone just fucking if they keep going, I'll get really fucking
I
pissed.
see you for the viewers just for a second. I feel like a different perspective would be interesting. I saw you just like another car was coming in the bay and you just went for it, just like honked the horn and just kept on.
Dude, that was like one of my more mild reactions. Yeah.
Made them back out.
And for some reason, that rule, I'm like, no, that is a sacred rule. That's like a common decency rule of like, we are all human and there's a limited resource here. And there's like only 5 to 7 cars on the bridge at a time. You can't just be a jackass. And for some reason, I like really respect that rule and really like want to defend that rule. But then there's so many other rules that I'm just like, that's retarded. Like, fuck you for trying to get me to, and I don't know really what the line is there, like what the distinction is.
Me neither.
Yeah.
We've been that car that's like bordering number 8, and we're like, all right, let's see if we can like squeak in before this person like wants to go, you know, like, so you're pissed off when you're that like guy sitting there waiting, you're like, dude, is this 8th guy really gonna go? But then the 8th guy's and they're like, I can do it. And that's Ruchi like sitting in the passenger seat like, go.
It's me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Have I told you guys the like crazy thing that I did relative to that?
What?
Oh God. I don't even know if I should tell the story, but there was one time I was on the Vespa. Okay. So you know where Hanalei, like
Yeah.
So I was on the Vespa and I was in that strange third lane kind of coming out from the taro fields there. So it's like, it's a lane that you barely even notice. Like you can go left to the taro fields. Basically I was coming back from that. And so there was like, you know, first 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cars go, 12. And there's like these freaking, you know, just like these rich tourist freaking SUV cars. And I'm just like, these fucking assholes. And I'm just getting more and more upset. And then I was just like, am I going to do this? And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And so what I did is I like followed the cars. I waited until there is this time where there's a straightaway. I cut past like 4 of the cars, which were the 4 last cars, which were, you know, cars like, you know, 10 through 14 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I slam on my brakes, or I like stop, and they're at a place where they can't pass. And I stop in the middle of the road. All of them stop. I like get off my scooter, prop it up, walk to the car, knock on the window. I'm like, hey, are you aware of the 5 to 7 car rule? And they're like, they looked like they thought I was gonna kill them. Honestly, they were like, is he about to like what is he gonna do? And I was just like, yeah. And I basically went to each car and just like talked to them. And they're like, I'm so sorry. Like it will never happen again. Like, I'm so sorry. And honestly, it felt like this beautiful moment of like vigilante justice where I was just like, guys, you've got to follow the rules. And I don't think they'll ever do it again. So basically me honking is like on the more mild side.
That's insane.
It was pretty insane. Yeah. I was like trying to see it in my head. I was like, oh God, this looks terrifying.
That's so funny though.
Yeah. Where do you go from
that feeling of like this vigilante justice thing? Because I kind of hate that in other people.
I hate the vigilante justice thing.
You see people be like that and you're like, God, this guy is so full of shit.
Yeah.
You know? Like, geez, so stupid, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no. But yeah, I understand.
On both sides, there's like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
I like, because that's kind of like the Karen thing, I guess.
Yes, the Karen thing. That's the energy I'm trying to like.
Yeah.
So you're kind of a Karen.
I guess I'm a Karen. I'm coming out as a Karen on the podcast. This week. God. I guess so, yeah. But to me, I guess my question for you are there any rules for you guys that you feel like you like really care about? Or is it just like, you're kind of like, fuck all rules?
There's definitely some that I feel like I have like that. And I'm trying to like put my finger on. I know that feeling, you know, it's like, should I really be upset about this? Because I'm kind of like being hypocritical of like all the things that like I stretch the rules on.
I relate to the hypocrisy thing because my relationship with rules is like if I'm at the losing end or the getting screwed end, then I'm like pissed off. Like I have this like I have the same like maybe distilled form of this vigilante justice thing. Like, why would this person do this? You know, this is not allowed. It's not the rules. And then if I'm the person breaking the rules, it's like this thrill of like screw these other guys, you know? And like I'm with like I think back to this time. So when I graduated high school, we had Disneyland had this like thing for graduation where everyone who was graduating could go to Disneyland for free. So we all got on this bus on Disneyland and we went to Disneyland. And if only like it was only kids that were graduating. And the lines were insane. So we had this thing. We made up this guy, Mark or something, and then we just put our hand on our phones and we just be like, Mark, wait, hold on, that's my friend right there. That's my friend right there. And we just went past people. And there was this girl who I swear to God took her leg and like put it against the railing. I was like, you're not going through me. And we just pushed past her. And then once we did it, and like people were just like this is also an insane thing in like human psychology. We were chasing this guy, Mark. We passed like probably like 50, 60 people. People were just like, oh, these guys again. But no one did anything about it. And then one guy was like, screw this, and just like went under the railing and jumped the railing. You know how like it like snakes around? He jumped the railing. And then all of a sudden, this flood of people that just jumping the railing. It was just mayhem. I wish I recorded it or something. But like, we started that. But anyways, it was this thrill of like me and my buddies were like, ah, fuck these guys, you know, screw these guys. We're just gonna pass this like line and just like screw everybody. And it was just fun, you know?
Yeah.
But on the receiving end, it's like this like, God, these guys are so stupid and childish.
Yeah.
It's just like this is the rule. Why would you ruin it for other people? You know?
Yeah. I think for me, it's partially about like who is creating the rule and like, do I respect the entity creating the rule?
I agree.
And like, if it's the government creating like a speed
I
limit,
agree.
I'm kind of like, fuck this.
I
Like,
agree.
don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
But if it's
That's a
like
good point.
kind of like the local Kauaʻi thing being like, hey guys, this is how this works here, then I'm like kind of like, okay, cool. This is a group I actually want to associate with. Yeah, it's almost like an identity thing. Oh, good. We're taking it back to identity.
So you subscribe to the reality that affirms the identity
Something like
that you
that.
want.
Agree.
This happens sometimes where we're like, where do we go?
That was really
We went down a
comfortable in that
wild
silence.
tangent. Now we're just kind of at a dead end.
Brian, lead us
into the next section of our podcast. What are some other things that we've been talking about? Just questions maybe we have in life. You know, I thought it was interesting. One of the kids, Aaron, that just left a couple days ago, we came to find out on like the last day that he was here that he writes like incredible songs and like is really like, he was playing like an original song for us. And I was like, who sings that? And he was like, oh no, like I made it. And I was like, wow, like that was actually really good. Like the lyrics he came up with. And I think the way he does that is just by like asking himself like questions about life and like questions he has about why things happen or why things can't be easier or whatever. And we were just like sitting there in our house, just like asking like tough questions that like don't necessarily have an answer, but like we were just wondering, you know, just like, so what kind of questions do you guys have? Like,
Well,
just
I
for, like,
want to talk about your fascination with art. You wouldn't seem to me like this person that appreciates art as much as you do. And then you interface with art that is like raw and honest. Like Brian is the first person I ever showed my writing to besides my brother. The very first person.
That's awesome. It was great, dude. Like,
yeah, but the way you talked about it afterwards, the way you like interacted with it, you know, same with Aaron's songs. Like I felt that too, you know?
Yeah. I don't think it was what I was expecting. Like we would be sitting there watching Ruchi write, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, he must just be like journaling about like whatever he's been seeing, or like just, but he reads a lot of fiction, and like I've never really read fiction, nor did I ever see the point of it until I talked to you. And I'm like, okay, like he sees deeper than the fact that it's not real. And like the creativity behind like creating something outside of reality in a sense. And anyway, like a lot of his writing is like fiction, you know, not about himself, not about like anything that's really happened, but stories that he makes up and characters that he kind of like creates personas for. And I was reading it and I'm like, holy cow, like the way that he goes about explaining these people in such detail, like it was an art, you know. And I feel like I have like such an appreciation for people who really pay attention to details. And you can kind of tell when somebody's really, really invested in something by the way that just like the byproduct of what they do, you know, is like of how much passion they have for it, you know. So I read it and I feel like he was like waiting for me to make fun of him. And I was like, damn, like I just like sat there for a second just thinking like that's not what I was expecting. But like, dude, like you're really good like at creating something of nothing and like just taking what you see in the world and like making it like a fictional reality. So I was telling Ruchi, like I have developed like this appreciation for art, and not like drawing or this or that, like what you would expect art to be, but just like the art of things, you know. Like I feel like there's a lot of things that like could be the art of design or the art of songwriting or the art of music or anything you can imagine. Like I think that when you see it as an art and like something that's created through passion and like little details, you see it for more than just the simple thing that it is, and it's just bigger than that. So yeah, I try and like live.
So what is the distinction then between like what makes something art, or what's the distinction between art and, I don't know what the counter would be, like, but art and something more bland where you're just doing it, or art and
yeah, I think there's like maybe it's like a spectrum, I'd say, like of like people who just like go through the motions, but I think it's more of like a perspective, like how you see something, right? Because somebody may see a chair, like this chair over here, for instance, and be like, oh, it's just a chair. But to somebody else, it's a work of art because they see it for what it's made of and the time that it took to handcraft the specific type of wood and file it and stain it. And I think when you see what's required to do something, you appreciate it more. You know what I mean? Like to somebody else, it's just so simple, but when you see like the blood, sweat, and tears that go into like actually doing something, I think you see it as more of an art, and it doesn't make it an art to everybody necessarily, right? But I think just the creation of things.
It reminds me, I like, of love in a certain way, and I don't know what you guys think love is, and I would be interested to hear what you guys think love is. But love for me is like a level of openness to an expression, and like, will you let it, you know, really be its fullness, and like seeing, you know, going more deeply into it. And so yeah, for me, it's part of the distinction I feel like you're drawing is something in which that you can like see the essence of, or the love in, or the and in the creative process too, like some, you know, the difference between just doing something and doing something like with love and with intention and with that yeah, more of that, I don't know what to even call it or like how to describe it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
It's just like a deeper care than normal, you know, than what you'd associate like a normal person to put into something. It's just like that next level, that like it factor, in the sense of going above and beyond, because it's more than just a thing. You know, it's like, to me, it's like a game to see how good I can make something, right? And I just like to see the end result be something I'm like super proud of, you know? Yeah.
I think like I just want to live in a world where everything, like I feel like so much, and this is why I hate private equity and shit, but so much of the world is made without that. And it's so special when whatever it is, food, music, whatever, that shoe rack, you know, when it's like, whoa, this was really made with care. And it's just so much more of a delightful world. And I feel like for whatever reason, really for the commodification of everything, we're just stripping that magic kind of out of the world.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to hear you, hear what you're saying about that. I'm just like, and I feel like I have really seen that in the care that you've been putting into these things. And I feel like I've been watching it grow. And that's why for me, like, it's so important that you don't just like do programming because you think it's going to make money and you think people want you to be a programmer. And then you're just like, I kind of fucking hate this, but I'll do it, you know, because it's what's important. And that's where the cliche of like, do something you love does actually feel so true and so important. Like, do something that you really can pour your love into, and that you like, that you want to pour that energy into, because anything else, like, what is even the freaking point? Thoughts, feelings?
I think it feels really good to see other people like reap the benefits of something you put a lot of time into, and to appreciate it. You know, I feel like it's like an appreciation, like even like the shoe rack we built, you know, it was like cool to recycle materials and create something cool, but we wanted to like go a little bit above and beyond, and have people be like, damn, like you guys really like put some time into it. And as we kind of saw that, it's like the appreciation for something that you put a lot of time into is like that gratifying feeling that I feel like a lot of us live for, you know, and not doing it solely for that. But when you do things, I feel like for yourself, and you put the time in because you want to see something great come to life, other people like respond positively to it a lot of times. And I think when you do it for yourself and then you get that recognition, it's like, wow, like that's the feeling I chase. You know, is that like self-fulfilling, but also like outward appreciation. Yeah. I think we've talked about that a lot, you know, and just like what you do, because you ask like, why do I do what I do? And I kind of ask him these questions. It's like, do you do it for this, or do you do it for that? And then like you kind of sit there like, damn, like, why do I do it? Or who do I do it for? Is it for all these external things, or is it like for yourself, you know? So like you've been able to kind of relate to that.
Yeah. Before you came, Brian, I was telling Aza that I'm aware of all my motivations and also how stupid they are, in a sense. Like, I don't think I'm like 100% aware of everything that motivates me, but all the ones that I am aware of, I know are stupid. I know are shallow. I know are superficial. I know I'm doing basically nothing for the right reasons, the quote unquote right reasons, but I'm like plugging my ears and doing it anyway. And it's like this weird situation that I'm in that I just don't want to take my ears out. I'm just not going to for some reason. And I consider myself like intelligent. I consider myself like smart, and still I'm doing something so blatantly stupid in the context of life and ultimate goals and overarching achievements.
Right. And well, I think when he was talking about like the love that and the attention that he was putting into this shoe rack, in my own head, I was kind of contrasting that with the attention I've seen you put into these different tech products kind of, and how it just doesn't feel like it's been infused with the same like kind of care and joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like
That's a good point.
I think there's a whole other side, which is like it both does feel better probably. It's in the doing of it and in the reception of it, because people can like feel that you actually cared about this thing that you built, and you weren't just building it to build it, you know? Because we all know that feeling. Like if we can all imagine the shoe rack that would exist. This is a perfect analogy. If Brian was just doing it because we were like, Brian, make a shoe rack, and he's like, fuck you, all right, I'll make a shoe rack, you fuckers. You know, and it's like, and you know, and then we have this like 2x4 ugly shoe rack thing down there, and we're all just like, oh, Brian made a shoe rack, nice, you know, and yeah, sure, maybe like both would fit shoes, and both like technically, functionally, but they have such different feelings, and I feel like the way that users. Like Brian can tell, you know, Brian has users using his shoe rack. He's getting a lot of user feedback.
More than me.
Yeah. And the user feedback seems to be like wildly positive. And I think it has to do with the joy and care that he put into it. So I just wouldn't completely lose sight of that. I think it's really important. And that's kind of what I've found too. And truthfully, I do think that a lot of my success, like I really enjoyed like building these different things that I built, and like got so happy like when they actually worked finally after having all these bugs, and then like, oh my God, this thing works. And that like, yeah, that joy, like it was a really joyous, easeful process, similar to how I imagine Brian's shoe rack building experience was. So yeah, I think it would be wise for you to invite yourself into that creative ease.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing it for you, really, honestly. Yeah. I'm doing it because it would be nice to like it be around that shoe rack or that micro SaaS startup.
Those are good thoughts.
Yeah.
And advice I'm really going to try to integrate.
Yeah. I think we kind of had this conversation too, like literally a couple of nights ago, is when you put the people that you're trying to help at the forefront of like why you're doing it, and you feel so strongly that you're trying to make somebody's experience or existence better, you know, it kind of takes on a life different than doing it for yourself, you know. Like I feel like you can only do for yourself and get so far until there's like an external purpose that can kind of like bring you to another level of persistence and work ethic and motivation that the selfishness like can't, in a way. And I feel like I've been there like a lot of times where I'm just like doing this for me and like I want this so badly, but there's a different kind of joy in making somebody else happier. For me, just like in this silly case with the shoe rack, is like just leaving something that I want other people to look at and think like, wow, like that was done with care, and who is it that did that, you know, like, and by the way, it wasn't just me. I had a great partner, Elijah, helped me in doing that too. But yeah, no, I think that the external side of it, and even though I say like, oh, I want people to think, oh, who did that, but not because I feel like I want that recognition, because I want them to think like, wow, like he really tried, you know. So yeah, I think you can. I feel like you're on the right track. Like you're close. I think you're on the verge of breaking through, and there's going to be that one little thing that like, because you could do what you're doing now and be wildly successful. It's just a matter of at the end of the road, right? When you get to where you thought that you wanted to go, like what's the feeling you're going to have, you know? And I think that that's what I think about a lot, is like I want to have a good feeling instead of looking back and thinking, damn, I just like did that so selfishly just because I wanted to make something, right?
Can we that squeak is so funny. I just think it's so like sweet and endearing that we only have 2 mics on this podcast, and like we'll probably get another mic, you know, we'll probably like get the setup more dialed and have more angles and whatever. But it's just like such a sweet moment in time. I'm really curious about that, because I feel like in a certain way it feels like a gift that you've had this experience of achieving so much of what you've set out to achieve. And I'm just really curious if you would be so kind as to share kind of what your experience of that has been, what your learnings of that have been, and how that's kind of impacting how you're moving, how you're integrating your goals in the future, and thinking about that moving forward.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like I had the same goal in a sense from the time that I was conscious enough to understand what it meant to like be on TV and be like the guys that I watched on the Yankees every night, like with my dad. And I was like, that's what I want to be. Like I almost like kind of modeled myself after that. And although I didn't like think about it every single day in the sense of like I'm working towards this crazy goal of being a professional baseball player, just like in the back of my mind, I always knew that that's what I wanted. Whenever anybody asked me, like, what do you want to do for a living? And like teachers and this and that, like, I want to be a professional baseball player. It wasn't even like a shadow of a doubt. There wasn't another occupation in the world that I would have told somebody, right? And I remember getting that call and somebody telling me like, you're gonna play professional baseball. And it was a different feeling than I think I expected, you know, in the sense of like you'd think like, oh, I made it, but I felt so much pressure, you know, because I was like, holy cow, like I've got a lot to live up to. I've got a lot of work to do still. Like it's not like you get there and you just like celebrate and like like the balloons pop and like it's like this big celebrate. Like usually when you get to where you want to go, it's like another level of that you have to like rise to. So anyway, that was like my story, like short in baseball, is like that was always my goal. Achieved it, and then when that was like taken away from me, I struggled for a while to figure out like what was going to be that thing that like I wanted to chase next. And I don't know that I was as aware of myself at the time of like what I wanted and what was purposeful to me. You know, like I feel like a lot of people here, I see like the way that they kind of have an idea of how they want their life to be, and they know that the road that they are on and what they want to achieve. Like I didn't have that, you know, because I never thought about anything but baseball, right? So I think naturally I just like went into like the most competitive thing I could do, which was sales, right? And I almost found myself in this like Wolf of Wall Street-esque like call center sales job, right? Where everybody who's anybody drives a Ferrari and wears this and has that. And I was never super motivated by those things, but I guess I thought to myself like, oh, if they can have that, like I can have that. So I'm just gonna like just try as hard as I can to be better than those guys. And I don't know that that was like the right approach to have. It was just like I loved competing so much and like seeing myself like at the top and like winning everything, that it just like kept me going. And I was kind of just like running on empty for like a long time, and had this like wild goal that not many people in the office like ever hit, right? It was like to do 200,000 of annualized volume in like a certain period of time, right? And I did that in like 2/3 of the time. Like, so I did it, I think in 10 weeks instead of 13. Right. And then I thought when I hit that, I'd be like, oh, like I could just like relax and everybody be like, oh my God, congrats. But then like there was a part of me that was like, I want to see how far I can go, right? Like I want to see if I can do another 100, and did another 100 by the 13th week. And I remember just like being the man. Like I just thought I was the man. And everybody was like, oh my God, like this is great. But then like it kind of like sunk into me, like, what did I do this for? You know, like after all was said and done, like I didn't really want to keep going. You know, like I got there and I was like, I don't want to keep going down this road. Like it didn't like kind of align with what I feel like I wanted, and just like something was off, right? So then I go and chase something else. And I think that's kind of been the struggle that I've had, is just like chasing things because I want to get to the destination, right? Instead of really finding something that I truly enjoy the process of. You know what I mean? Like a lot of what I've been doing is to get to that goal because I feel like getting there is going to be like that feeling of the balloons and this and that, and like the celebration, like you made it there. But usually it's not that way, you know? And I think, especially after being here and coming off of one of those, like in real estate, and like hitting a goal that I had, and then thinking like, okay, it's like this, what I want to solely do for like the rest of my life. I, when I work away, I found Aza because I was like, I want to see what else there is in the world to ground myself and make sure that the next time I go and chase something, it's like for the right reason, you know, and not for these like superficial things or for the selfish feeling of being on top. Yeah. So I think I'm still kind of figuring that out, you know, but I learn a lot every day, and just, I mean, being here, I've learned something from somebody every single day through conflict and the great times we have, and just so many different perspectives that in other people I see like strengths and weaknesses that I need to get better at, or things that I should kind of continue to build on as I go into that next thing, you know? So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
When you ask that question, people who can watch this recording back, you see my eyes go wide, because I know I'm fascinated by Brian's past. Brian's past is one of the most, lived so much life. Being able to walk through your reality and walk through your past with you in a way, I feel like you might have gone, I feel like you were handling some of the stuff you'd gone through while describing it to me and sometimes others. And a lot of respect for the stuff you've
I appreciate it.
lived through.
So how do you see, how do you see this next moment, or these next moments, and how do you think about purpose, and how do you I don't think there's right answers here, but I'm just curious what you're moving forward with.
So you say like in these moments, like in terms of like what happens next, or I'm an awful employee. So I don't think that I'll ever be able to have like a typical job again, you know? So just kind of like for me, exploring creativity, I think, in a lot of talents I have that I may not have like uncovered yet. I think it's just kind of like a self exploration period to figure out, like, I feel like there's just going to be that one thing that I never knew I was just so good at, and just like try so many different things, and like put myself in like unique situations to be uncomfortable and not let the fear like take over, like the control, just to be and see where things take me. I think is a part of life that I want to experience because I've had to have control for so long.
I wouldn't normally say this because I'm like not super pro psychedelics in my own life, but you actually remind me a lot of my friend Thomas. And Thomas is um the path that he's gone down. He ended up like, getting a PhD from Columbia in this kind of but he does a lot of work around psychedelics and psychedelic therapy, and it really does interestingly integrate a lot of what you're talking about, of like letting go kind of, but also and so I'm just kind of like curious about that in your reality and in the process of learning to facilitate and help people integrate psychedelic experiences. It's a wildly like vulnerable and kind of like you get to experience so many different parts of yourself. I'm curious about that and you, and yeah, obviously only legal drugs. Just kidding.
Legal psychedelics. Thomas seems like a great guy.
No, Thomas is an incredible guy. We should definitely have him on the podcast, and you should totally meet him. You guys would love it. You guys are like both tall, intense, blue-eyed. Just really like strong, very like both really competitive, but also like beautifully kind of grounded and curious. I think you would say a really similar thing to Thomas about like that kind of level of self-questioning, and that's really interesting and beautiful.
I find it interesting you said that because like I never thought about like going down the road of studying psychedelics, but I do have like a different level of appreciation now for like psychology. I think that we've kind of dove into that and just like trying to just better understand the way people think and why things are the way that they are, and like answering the questions that we have. And it's kind of odd, just like even in our house here, that we like have all these questions and we talk about these like theories and whatever, and then we like turn on a video and it's almost like we know what to look for and then it gives us the answer. Like we'll just watch a video and be like, that's what we were talking about. And that feeling is like super cool, is to like just like wonder why something is the way that it is and like to then figure it out. Because I feel like a lot of people are never curious and just kind of like go through life with this sense of it being like not predetermined, but like just that there's no like way of getting better and changing, that things just kind of are the way that they are, and just like, oh, I'm just this way because that's who I am. I think that there's nothing that frustrates me more than somebody saying, oh, that's just like how I am. And I mean, obviously kind of depending on what it is, but just like there being no
Why does that frustrate you?
I think because I've realized, I mean, I think to be really successful at things, you kind of have to like embrace change, and you have to like work on getting better at things within yourself. And I think I forget sometimes that everybody doesn't have the same perspective. But it frustrates me because I've realized that it's possible to make changes, and to see other people just like content with the fact that things are the way that they are and that there's no way to change it, is like this like blood boiling feeling, right? That like there's nothing I can do about, because everybody's like kind of entitled to their own like views and opinions on things. But yeah, I feel like we've all met that person who just like
accepted
is like, that's just how it is, and just like accepts mediocrity in a sense.
I'm curious about just continuing to follow that, not necessarily in this moment, but that feels. I always hear there's like a quote that somehow sticks in my head, and it's like, what you get really angry about can be like a powerful, just place of motivation to like kind of spend time and let it unfurl over time and whatever. But I could totally see that that fury turning into like beautiful gifts to humanity.
Mm.
And my like little story, I have no idea if it's right, but it's like that fury could be your kind of like own fear of you not fulfilling your karmic thing of like helping people understand that and helping people understand that they can step into different versions of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a certain way, I'm like, it's so cool that you feel that anger and that frustration. And I'm curious, how you could explore that over time.
100%. 100%. I think that's going to be part of the next chapter in learning a lot about myself to then learn how to help other people, because it's like we talk about like the balance and the spectrum of selfishness and selflessness. And like Ruchi and I were talking about this, like, I feel like you almost have to be selfish for a period of time to even have the ability to be selfless, because if you're selfless without having ever put in the time for yourself, like, what are you really giving somebody?
Yeah.
So I think that there's got to be a period of time of learning and growth for me to really have that impact that I want to have, that I visualize having one day. And probably something similar to that, the things that really frustrate me about other people could very well be those things. So.
And maybe it's not just like about other people, maybe you could almost like separate it from the person. Maybe it's like the negative voice in them that's just like, oh no, I am just this way. This is just the way, it doesn't have to be them in a certain way. It's like, it's a part of their psychology that says this is good enough, or this is exactly how I am because I've always been this way.
It's funny you say that, because I feel hypocritical even like having said that, because like that's me in some areas. And I think that there's areas that I excel at that I get frustrated at other people who don't see the potential for change in those areas. But then there's other things that other people may be really good at that they look at me and they're like, dude, like, why can't you be better? And I feel like we've seen that even here, like in like people calling me out about like certain things that I could be doing better at. For example, like cleaning and like putting things away. And they see it so differently, and that's like a silly example, but now when I said that, it like struck me that it's like, even like a reflection too, like the mirror we talk about is that.
Yeah.
So
I kind of feel like we got there,
dude.
This is so cool.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like we could call it if we thank you so much for joining our podcast.
Thank you guys for having me,
dude.
I literally walked in the door and Aza called me and it like went to voicemail. I picked it up real quick. He's like, hey, you want to be on the podcast? And I went in the bathroom and looked at myself like, dude, like I gotta make sure I don't look like a scrub. But then I was like, do I wear a polo or what? But anyway, thank you guys for having me, and it's been cool. Like, first experience, like I have like I feel like an irrational fear of being on camera and like doing this. So
you got into it though.
Yeah.
You got into it. I could feel you just like totally detached from that entire thing.
Yeah. So that was a cool.
It could have just been us. Thing. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Sweet.
Love you, Brian.
All right.
Yeah.
Ooh.